Hallo jongens, ik ga even een filmpje laten zien dat ik MineFactory Reloaded niet kon vinden. Maar oké, daar gaan we. The Redstone Nightmare.
Welcome everyone to another mod spotlight, and today we are gonna cover the awesome MineFactory mod by Power Crystals on the Minecraft forums, and this mod adds tons of new features and machinery to your Minecraft world and just makes it so much more beautiful to play in it. Now this mod has two prerequisites, namely Power Crystals Core and either IndustrialCraft, BuildCraft or Thermal Expansion. You only need one of those. I'm gonna go with Thermal Expansion. You're gonna need any of those to actually power your machines. Alright, now that we know all of that, why don't we go ahead and have a look through the individual items. Let's have a look at the basics first. You're gonna have to collect some rubber, not necessarily from IndustrialCraft, as this mod adds its own rubber trees within swamp areas, which is pretty good to know. Anyways, cook it up to get some raw plastic, combine that to get the plastic sheets, and process it further to get the factory machine block. Now this block is very important as you need it within all the future recipes. There's also the precision sledgehammer, which is simply the tool used to rotate stuff around. Now the author is already in contact with the author of Thermal Expansion to make the Omni wrench able to do that as well, which is good to know. As a little side note, you can break blocks, these machines, using your bare hands, and again, it can be powered using BuildCraft, Thermal Expansion, or IndustrialCraft too. The interface generally looks like that. You have some space for a inventory, a liquid tank, a power bar, a process bar, and finally a cooldown bar. Next up, we're gonna have a look at all the machines that deal with farming or animal breeding. Farming first, there are three machines that you want to make: the planter, the harvester, and finally the fertilizer. Now the fertilizer needs a special kind of fertilizer. You can actually disable that within the configs to make it use normal bone meal, but why would you do that? This is the recipe for the industrial fertilizer. So here we have our three machines powered by Thermal Expansion. The first thing you want to do is put a 3x3 grid just above the planter, like that. And depending on what you put in there, and once the cooldown is done, it will automatically tilt and deploy your seeds. Pretty cool. Now the fertilizer, on the other hand, is used to automatically grow the stuff instantaneously, and the harvester, of course, will take care that the stuff is being harvested and put out of the output slot right there into whatever tubing system you wish. Of course, you can also put it directly into a chest. Now you have three options here. You can keep the leaves, which means that it will shear them. It will not break them. You will not get any saplings. You can also do that with mushrooms or jungle wood in case you want to make a cocoa bean farm. It will also collect some strange liquid, and with that we're going to deal in just a bit. And just as another example, it works just as fine with nether wart. Just gonna have to replace the dirt using soul sand. Pretty darn awesome. Now let's have a look at the animal breeding types of machines. First up, we have the breeder, made like this. Pretty expensive. We also have the chronotyper, and we have the vet station. Now this guy actually needs some syringes, which you make like this. And if you want to make a healing syringe, which heals animals, gonna need an apple. And the growth hormone syringe is gonna need a golden carrot. I'm gonna see what that means in just a second. Alright, here we have our three machines and plenty more, which I'm gonna show you in just a bit. Now we have the breeder, which actually requires weeds to function, and it will breed animals within a 5x5 grid in front of it. Down here we have two chronotypers. The gray side is actually the input and the violet side the output. Now input for what? Actually babies or adults. So what it will do is pulling the baby from this side over to this side. Pretty cool. And vice versa with this guy. Now I've put a lever here because if you know how redstone works, it also affects this block and this block. So all of these machines I'm showing you, you can actually shut off using a lever, which is what I've done right here. Now the vet station also can go somewhere nearby, and just make sure that it's facing the right way. You have to put some growth hormone syringes in there. Pretty cool, and they will make sure the animals grow instantaneously, which is pretty cool. To prove the whole concept, I have two test subjects right there. We can enable this system, and you can see it already bred them. Baby animal is right here, and once the cooldown of this machine has done its thing, it should be pulled over to the other side. Pretty cool. Now this syringe machine came into effect. You can see it used one more syringe, and once the cooldown of this machine is done, it will go over to the other side again. Be ready to breed. Holy cow! Next two machines that deal with processing of mobs are the rancher, which will, for instance, shear sheep or milk cows. And we have the grinder, which will kill the mobs off, of course. Let's have a look at these two machines. I placed them right here. We have the mob grinder, which will create some kind of special liquid that we're gonna get to later as well. Let's place a cow here, enable this guy. Cooldown is done, it's getting killed off, and stuff is being automatically deployed out of the back, and you can put it wherever you wish. Let's try out the rancher. Now you want to fill this up with buckets, otherwise you're going to end up with some spilled milk. Let's enable that, and we should be able to see some progress going on right away. Pretty cool. It's deploying the buckets out of the back as usual, putting it in a chest as you please. Now once the buckets are used up, it's going to actually end up using or deploy some spilled milk, which is not something that you necessarily want, because I don't think you can use it for anything. But just so you know and that you have seen it, some spilled milk. In Minecraft style, of course. The last two items you can make in relation to mobs are actually the sewage collector and the safari net. Sewage collector made like this. Interesting, and it's those guys right on the floor. Now you're gonna have to place them in a pattern like this if you want to be the most efficient, because it only affects the block right above it, and it will actually create this strange liquid, which I'm gonna talk about in just a second. The safari net on the other side, crafted like this, is used to collect an animal and deploy it wherever you want, but it will consume your safari net. But a pretty good solution to drag around mobs. Now that we are done with the whole farming and breeding systems, let's have a look at some miscellaneous items and processing machinery. First up, we have the conveyors and item collectors. A conveyor belt made like this, using rubber, or the item collector. Pretty cool. And you probably already guessed from the animation what it will do. It will drag either items or players around. And the item collector will just make sure that it picks up everything that comes from a conveyor belt and deploys it within an adjacent inventory. Easy as that. Well, now we have a bunch of machines ahead of us. First up, we have the fisher. Pretty cool. Now this guy needs a 3x3 water source right below it. Also requires some power, and it will just do its thing and collect an awesome lot of fish for you guys. I love it. Of course, a mod like this also requires a block breaker made like this, and it will just basically break any block you place in front of it, whatever it may be, and deploys it right there. And this looks like a graphical glitch, but it actually connects up. Pretty cool. We also have a weather collector at our disposal, pretty cool, and it will actually collect water if it rains and snowballs if it snows. Next up we have the sludge boiler. Oh yes, 3 furnaces, and it's this guy right here. Now you can see I'm already getting some awful debuffs. Now the sludge is actually the first liquid that we got from the harvester right here. Pretty cool. I'd have to transport that over to your sludge boiler. And what this guy does is produce some sand, dirt, and clay for you, processing that sludge. Pretty useful. Next up, we have the composter made like this, and this guy will actually deal with the liquid that you get from your animals, namely the sewage. The brown strange thing right here, just make sure that it goes somehow in there, and it will produce some fertilizer for you guys. Pretty good to know. Last but not least, we have the Auto Enchanter, pretty cool. Now this guy actually requires the essence from the mobs that you got right here. So this strange green liquid, good to know, and it's gonna go right in there. Now I've just placed a tank here for demonstration purposes. Now you can set the exact level of enchantment that you want to apply, place your stuff right in there, and it's gonna process. And the more levels you put in there, I think the longer it will take. But you will end up with any of the enchants that you would also get using a normal enchantment table. So there's nothing special about that, just that you don't require levels, but you require some mob essence. Nifty idea, I have to say. To finish off this spotlight, we're gonna have a look at the 4 types of rails this mod adds. We have the passenger drop-off and pickup rail. We also have the cargo drop-off and pickup rail. Now, you probably already guess how these guys work, but let's get a minecart running here. Now this is the pickup thing, and the range on which it will pick me up can actually be adjusted within the configs, but you saw on the drop off rail, or at least close to it, I got dropped off again. Great! The cargo rails on the other side will pick up stuff from a nearby inventory and deploy it wherever there is the opposite rail. Pretty good. So we have an empty chest right here and some stuff right here. Let's place some more stuff in there. Now, technically, this chest right here should be filled up once the cart passes, and deploy it right here. Pretty cool. Works like a charm. Alright guys, this has been it for this mod spotlight. Thank you so much for watching. You can find a link in the description as usual for the download and documentation if you need any further info. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Have a good time and see you next time. Bye bye.